Hi, it's Colleen and welcome back to my channel. If you've been here before, then you know I love old sewing machines. I really enjoy cleaning them up and getting them back up and running. In fact, you've seen a few of those machines on this channel, like this 1910 National Paveway treadle sewing machine or this 1901 New Home sewing machine. But there are a few new ones in my collection that are just waiting their turn. Today, as I'm working on a new-to-me machine, I thought I'd show you my sewing machine restoration toolkit. I'm certainly not an expert, but you don't have to be. As far as antiques go, sewing machines are widely available. And aside from the rarest machines, like this 1859 foliage, which is quite valuable and therefore requires a professional touch, they're actually really affordable. That means it's low stakes. You can learn on a common machine that costs less than $25, or maybe you picked it up for free. And if you make a mistake, no problem. At most, you've lost some time. At best, you've at least cleaned up a machine that might otherwise have been sent to a landfill. If you're interested in learning more, come along with me as I show you 15 tools that can help you restore just about any sewing machine. I'm going to go ahead and show you what's in my toolkit, and I just keep it in a plastic bin like this. I've got Q-tips, which are great for getting in those nooks and crannies. This looks like a razor, but it's actually a plastic blade. And it is a scraper that's good for getting off like adhesive residue or gummy, oil, or gunk that might be around your machine. And because it's plastic, it won't hurt your finishes the way a metal one could. You still have to use caution with it, but I found this is pretty useful to just sort of scrape some of that residue off. For instance, I used this on the back of the lock catch on the table. I took it off and there was 150 years of lint and grime underneath that plate. But also I think there had been a little bit of a felt pad or something under there that had long since disintegrated, and it was gummy and yucky. So I used this to scrape it off and it didn't hurt the brass, which was good. So there's that. This is Rust-Oleum Rust Reformer, and it's really good for treating treadle table legs. Where the cast iron has been japanned or painted, it's probably just needs a dusting and a polishing, but if that paint has chipped off, sometimes the iron underneath it can rust. And I showed this in my new home video. It does an amazing job of restoring the bare cast iron to sort of that black finish that everything else is. It's in between japanning, which is the factory finish, and paint, which is what you can do at home. I would hate to paint an antique cast iron table, but this helps make the color more uniform, and it looks really good. This is Gojo Original Formula. You don't want the one with pumice in it, but this is a good general degreaser, and it is safe to use on most machines. You do want to test it in an inconspicuous spot first to make sure that it's not going to damage your finish. And I wouldn't recommend using it on something whose finish is particularly delicate. Like if there's flaking paint and flaking varnish and things like that, you might want to try something different. But I found that this works pretty well as long as you use it with a soft cloth. Do not use a microfiber cloth. It will abrade the surface and ruin your decals, because I found that out the hard way. I'll test it as I go, and I'll make sure that it's just kind of getting the grease off without going so far as to ruin the paint. So I got that. There are some people who only use sewing machine oil to clean their machines. And the thinking there is that the buildup that covers up the decals is sewing machine oil. So what better to dissolve it than more sewing machine oil? And it's true, it does work really well. I think Gojo is more effective and faster than using sewing machine oil, but there's nothing wrong with doing that. And I will often do a final polish on my machine with sewing machine oil just to sort of seal in all the little pores and put a protective layer on top of the decals. And obviously sewing machine oil is good to have on hand because you will need it to lubricate all the moving parts of these old machines. They need oil. And if you get a machine that is seized up, you can often get it moving again just by saturating those parts, waiting, applying heat, coming back to it, saturating it some more. Eventually, you can get most machines moving again. Don't forget to oil up your modern machines too. Even though they're modern and they don't depend on it as much as the old ones do, they still like to have a drink of oil every so often. I have a few other tools here. I have a soft toothbrush that is now delegated to cleaning, so that's good for areas that aren't so delicate that you just need to do a little extra scrubbing. This is super stiff, but it's super skinny, so it's good to get in the crevices where maybe you can't otherwise. I have a paintbrush, like an art paintbrush, and that's good for just getting in and agitating the Gojo or scrubbing around in the corners where you're just trying to get a little bit of the grease and dirt off, but you can't get in there with a regular scrub brush. I have a very soft brush. It is sold as a car detailing brush for getting into the vents and stuff like that in the car, but it's perfect for a sewing machine because it's really soft. It's not going to hurt anything, but it will help you get that loose dirt and dust off. This stuff is a miracle. It's called Simichrome polish. It works for so much. It is so good. I used it on my new home machine and it, helped polish all the metal, right? I thought, oh, that's perfect. Well, I was reading on here, it also works for silver and brass. Sure enough, I'm starting work on this table here for the 1874 Wheeler and Wilson, and it polished up the silver plated stuff in no time flat. It worked so well for that, and then it's working very well on the brass too. A little bit goes a long way. This will be my 4th machine with this tube. You can see it doesn't take that much, right? Because it's really lasting a long time. It's more expensive than a traditional Wright silver polish, but it's far more effective and doesn't require the additional use of water the way the Wright stuff does. This is great stuff. I always keep a little dish because as you're taking parts off the machine, you don't want to lose them. So all the little screws and things like that can go in here, and then you can work on them and take them back and forth to the machine. Most of the parts are small enough to fit here or in a small dish, and it's handy to just have a dish like this around. I have plenty of rags. These are soft flannel rags. These are from an old pair of flannel pajama pants that my husband had, and I just cut them up into rags. So I have a bunch of those rags, and like I said, do not use microfiber. So you really do need flannel or a very soft like cotton t-shirt rag, but no microfiber and no plain cotton because plain cotton doesn't absorb the way these do. This stuff is awesome. It's Old English scratch cover up. It comes in dark wood or light wood. So I have both depending on what I'm working on. I use this all around my house. I use it on my kitchen cabinets. I use it everywhere I have wood because wood can get little nicks and dings in it, little scratches. It doesn't fully restain them or finish them or fill them in completely like the way a furniture restorer would do, but it makes it look a lot better. Especially on an old piece, it just sort of hides the scratches with a little bit of color. It's dark, right? It's really dark, but you just put a little on a cloth and rub it over your finish and it will hide all those tiny little imperfections. I have this to go with this. This is all sandpaper and steel wool. This is what you're going to use on just the basic metal pieces like your bobbin cover plate, your needle plate, things like that. You have to be really careful because you don't want to ruin the finish on what you have, so you have to know what you're working with. I, for instance, found out that everything on this machine, wherever it's not black, it's silver plated except for the base plate. That is just regular metal that's been stamped, so like just steel or whatever it is, regular metal. So I'll use this on that piece only. Everything else I'm going to polish it because it's silver plated. But the idea is that you start a very coarse grit, so this is 120, and you work your way through the various types of sandpaper until you get to a very fine grit. This is 3000. So you just work your way through all of the different grit from coarse to fine as you're polishing and removing rust from a piece of metal, and you lubricate it with sewing machine oil. And then you can finish up with this 000 steel wool to do a really fine finishing polish. And then you can follow up again with this if you want to as a last step. This will still help you polish just regular metal. These two are going to last me a lifetime of restoring machines because I've already done 3 and I'm still using just the first little bits I pulled out of the packages. This is a great thing to have in your kit. I'll have my old towel to protect my work surface. I'll have paper towels for, getting the gunk off. I've got a small set of screwdrivers. There are 2 other items I'd like to show you that I don't keep in my kit because I keep them in my sewing room. This is compressed air or canned air. This is really good for getting rid of the lint and dust that gets embedded down by the rotary hook or around the bobbin area. You have to be careful with canned air because it does have moisture in it and it can put moisture into places that you don't want moisture. I also have this pair of bent nose tweezers, and this is also really good for removing lint, for threading the machine, and for other tasks that require you to get in small spaces. An easy small kit for restoration, and it all packs away in this tub, and I can store it in a drawer in my sewing room. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. If you want to stay up to date with what's happening in between videos, be sure to follow me on Instagram. Thanks and have a great day.